After Brazil drew with Morocco, Carlo Ancelotti stood in front of the world's press and said 6 words that should send shockwaves through every Brazilian fan. The nerves were all over the place. The Brazil manager, 3 days into a World Cup, admitting his players were nervous against Morocco. And here is the detail that makes that even more devastating. Brazil were almost one result away from something that had not happened since 1934. Something so unthinkable that most Brazilians do not even know the record exists. Let me explain. Brazil have played World Cup openers since 1934, across every tournament since then, through war, through political chaos, through generations of players, through 5 world titles. They had never lost their opening match. Not once in 21 consecutive World Cup openers, a run of 17 wins and 3 draws, had Brazil been beaten in Game 1. Against Morocco, they came within a Vinicius Jr. moment of breaking that record. Without that individual moment of genius, a strike so precise that it almost did not look real, Brazil would have lost their opening World Cup game for the first time in 92 years. 92 years of a record almost gone in the first game against Morocco. And here's the detail that makes it worse. Morocco dominated the first 30 minutes so completely that Brazil had conceded before they'd even settled. Ismael Saibari, a midfielder, not a striker, threaded through the gap between Gabriel and Marquinhos, 2 of the best centre-backs in world football, and lobbed Alisson with the composure of a player who had done it 1,000 times before. 2 of the best centre-backs in the world walked through by a midfielder in the first game of the World Cup. Now here's where it gets genuinely fascinating, because the Brazil manager situation is one of the most extraordinary stories at this entire tournament. Carlo Ancelotti is the first ever foreign coach to lead Brazil at a World Cup. In the history of Brazilian football, with 5 world titles, decades of tradition, and as the most passionate football nation on earth, they have never once handed the job to a foreigner. Until now. Until desperation. And a former Brazilian coach, speaking before the tournament, summed up the discomfort perfectly. "It bothers me. When you open his jacket, his skin isn't green and yellow. The 5 world titles were won by Brazilians." That quote is sitting in every Brazilian dressing room right now. The idea that the man in charge doesn't truly understand what this shirt means, what this tournament means, what 24 years of failure means to a nation that invented the beautiful game. Brazil's qualifying campaign was their worst ever, finishing 5th in South America, suffering their worst qualifying defeat, 4-1 to Argentina, and recording their first ever home qualifying defeat at the Maracanã. They arrived at this World Cup not on the back of momentum, on the back of survival, and now, in Game 1, the nerves were all over the place. Here's the thing about Brazil that nobody is saying clearly enough. The pattern doesn't lie. 4 consecutive quarter-final exits, or earlier since 2002, the 7-1, a first ever home qualifying defeat, their worst ever qualifying campaign, a foreign manager coaching his first ever international tournament. Neymar, the player brought back specifically as a pressure shield, was not even fit to play. And Vinicius, who scores for Real Madrid every week, played the first game of his life where he scored for Brazil and didn't win. Every single one of the previous 8 times Vinicius scored for Brazil, Brazil won. This was the first time the result did not follow. 1 player, 1 moment. The only thing standing between Brazil and the beginning of the end, Brazil will probably beat Haiti, they will probably beat Scotland too. And everyone will forget about Morocco. They will probably pass the group stage just because even 3rd place teams can advance in this format. Everyone will start talking about Vinicius and Ancelotti and the magical reunion with the trophy they haven't touched in 24 years. Don't let them, because Morocco just showed the world exactly how this ends. Not with a catastrophe, not with a 7-1 score, just quietly, systematically. A team that seems good when you look at their players, but that just doesn't work, either because it's full of egos who can't work together, or because they have a manager who knows nothing about what it means to be Brazil. Where do you think Brazil will fall? Do you think they can even reach the quarterfinals? Let me know in the comments.